Sometimes, nothing beats watching TV, movies, or playing a good video game. It always provides a sense of escapism and allows you to transport you into a world where you experience the lives of fictional characters. While of course they have your main protagonists, antagonists, and supporting cast, sometimes there's that one character that you just find to have many unique attributes about them, only for those to be thrown out of the window. It just makes you frustrated and wish that time was further spent with these characters before they were put on the bus, whether that be for the foreseeable future or for good. And I just end up thinking, man, that was such a waste. Today, I'll be focusing on characters from my favorite franchises that maybe exactly think this way. This video was meant to be a January release, but I suppose I may have some skewed priorities. But hey, better late than never. Unlike these characters. Now, as usual, rules shall be in play. One character per franchise, and the order will go from a character with the most utilization to the character with the most wasted potential. And of course, this is just my silly personal opinion, as I'm sure there are many other characters that you might feel are given less screen time and development out there. These are just some from fictional media I really like. Also, massive spoiler alert since I am going to go a bit into detail. Anyway, let's begin. I shall waste your time no further. Oh no, I'm late! I had some time to decide whether I should even count this character, since the franchise he comes from is a parodical web series, and the general consensus of whether the show is good or not really depends on which time you started watching it. But it has arcs, so I'm gonna count it. SMG4, simply put, isn't a franchise I personally take too seriously. It has some emotional moments, but it's first and foremost a machinima comedy, and I casually enjoy it from time to time. However, I do hear quite a lot that the original modern characters have a lot of divisiveness, whether they're utilized well or not, as well as the direction their personalities are taken. I'm on the side where I like the original characters, but I do see where people come from, and why they are as divisive as they are. This especially includes my favourite character in the series, Desti. You know, we're having a great start here when your character has more appearances dead than alive. Up until the anime arc, Desti only had one appearance in the form of if Mario was in Splatoon 2. Her rivalry with Meggy I felt was established really well, and she was a rather charismatic and enjoyable antagonist. Some people like me thought it was a great introduction, while others thought she was too Disney Channel villain-like for the show. But as someone who really loves Splatoon, when I first watched this episode back when I first discovered SMG4 in 2020, I thought she was pretty cool. But then she was completely forgotten about for the rest of the show in 2018. That's not really a good sign for a character that seems to have a lot of potential. Then came the anime arc from 2019, and Desti returns not only to menace Meggy once more, but to further expand her character. This could go well. She steals her Splat Squad weapons, which seems like she's crippling their success in the upcoming Splatfest at first, when really she did it just to challenge Meggy. Additionally, when Meggy was kidnapped by the anime cartel, she helps the gang out even after winning her previous Splatfest round. While it is true that she merely joins in out of sheer pragmatism if nothing else, it's revealed later that she doesn't want her rival dead, and secretly cares for Meggy's safety. You know, I bet she's going to come out of this story as a more mature and better person. Oh dear. When making the anime arc, Luke worried that he would be making a mistake by killing off Desti. That should have been a sign from the get-go that there could have been more interesting stories to tell with Desti. According to the wiki, she was initially meant to appear in 2018's Waluigi arc, which would have been perfect for additional appearances for Desti, as well as further time to develop her relationship with Meggy, which would have made the anime arc just that little bit more compelling. Heck, a year later, it's revealed there's an alternate universe version of Desti, who hunts the anime cartel's false Sephiroth when one kills Meggy after the final Splatfest. While it was awesome, it only proved Luke's worries were even more valid, and sadly this version of Desti is one and done, and it's most likely to certain we'll never see this version of her again. Did however the first SMG4 video I ever watched with Desti was the very one that killed her off? No, I don't think it did. So, with all this wasted potential, why am I mentioning Destiny first? Because, at the very least, like it or not, she has had an impact on the series. Her death I personally find to be the most emotional out of the ones that occurred throughout the series, and it had a negative impact on Maggie's self-esteem for the subsequent 2 years of the show. On a more personal note, of all the characters featured on this list, she is the most well developed by a long mile, and it's not even close. The anime arc did a good job further expanding her character, going from a typical aggressive and arrogant, if charismatic and enjoyable rival, to someone who cares about Maggie and someone who sees her as a genuine friend, which makes her death all the more tragic and upsetting. I'll be lying if I said her character was handled effectively, but she has received way more love and care from her creators than almost every single mainline F-Zero character. Even then, that point is a bit of an overstatement. F-Zero GX took to expanding the characters, from extending their backstory to even learning new information about them in the interviews. I'll happily even argue that some are just perfect the way they are, as their backstory, whatever that may be, motivates you enough to do well on the racetrack. Unfortunately, the story mode gives most of the screen time to the poster boy of F-Zero, Captain Falcon, and only a select few characters interact with him, let alone not all of them even physically appear in the story mode. That's why pretty much any F-Zero character could make this list, since their many personality quirks aren't demonstrated fully, but at least their pilot profile movies and the aforementioned interviews make them more and more interesting. And that's why I feel that most of the F-Zero pilots are more underrated per se than wasted. So why the hell did Nintendo drop the ball a bit with Beastman? Just to clarify, Beastman is not the worst character in F-Zero GX, no. His design is pretty cool, and his vehicle is one of the best jack of stats in the entire game, and in GX there was an attempt in making him more interesting. In F-Zero X, all we knew about him was that he is an expert beast hunter, and took up his job due to an accident regarding a crocodile attack. He also wants to hunt down Biorex in the chance that he becomes a danger to a crowd. In GX, we not only find out that he comes from a planet called White, but also another character trait of his. Despite his imposing nature, he is actually quite shy, and hides himself in the job as the Beastman. That is intriguing, but remember I said that his extended backstory attempted to make his character interesting. Not that it successfully did. His shy personality is completely forgotten about during the interviews, and most of his responses are pretty generic and standard.
Can you tell us why you became an F-Zero racer?
I put my life on the line. I love the thrill.
Bruh.
About the two most interesting things we get from him is that he learned his combat skills from a karate correspondence course, and that he wants to get rid of all wild animals.
It's a success. The mosquito is dead. But Roy must make sure.
There's nothing more dangerous than a wounded mosquito.
Meanwhile, for the other characters, during the other interviews, a good amount of their questions refer back to their motivations, as well as learning new information about them, which, at least in my opinion, makes us grow to enjoy them even more, which I find Beastman to be lacking in that department. To add insult to injury, Beastman doesn't even get his own FMV CGI model. While his ending stands out because of a different art style, it doesn't even show him doing his job of hunting beasts, and how he does it, which is such a missed opportunity. Beastman is a bit underwhelming compared to the rest of the cast as a result. It doesn't help that he shares the same name as an iconic He-Man character, which most people will think of when you mention the name Beastman. But on the bright side, he's still entertaining nonetheless, and he comes from a very well-received video game. Better having your reputation being a minor character in a great game than a major character in a bad game. We've reached the point where I've already talked about characters who I at least care about and unironically enjoy despite their flaws, to characters whose flaws undermine their potential severely. Devil May Cry 2 is a game I cannot take seriously. No, it's not because of Dante. He is overly serious and as a result, boring in this game, and has only one or two funny lines. Arius is an absolute joke of a villain, with a stupidly simplistic motivation of becoming
an all-powerful immortal!
Yeah, that. Heck, even the infamous infested Chopper boss battle is more of a threatening villain than Arius. but his over-top voice acting in the cutscene, and just how imbecilic of a villain he is, make him at the very least one of my favorite parts of this game. However, not Dante wasn't alone. DMC2 had a second playable character in the form of Lucia. She had her own separate campaign, and it is my preferred campaign of the two. Her playstyle is more unique since she utilizes daggers, her double trigger design is amazing, one of my favorites in the series actually. Her theme tune is incredibly catchy, and that's where I draw the line for stuff that I take seriously about Lucina. This is the line. She is a part of the clan of the Mali, who are guardians infused with demon blood and help the legendary demon hunter Sparda wipe off demons from the earth. Interesting, right? Well, the clan never gets brought up again. I've had the misfortune of playing Dante's campaign first, so the plot twist, if you can even call it one, of Lucia being a demon clone creation of Arius was revealed with no build-up. That was annoying, but maybe if I played Lucina's campaign afterwards, I could have a more well-paced story built around that character, and the reveal will have more oomph to it. But this is Devil May Cry 2, where the entire story is one big afterthought. We barely spend much time exploring Lucia's personality before the reveal, which happens in the third chapter. What we do see of her personality before and even after said reveal is extremely bland and uninteresting. The emotional moments she has lose a lot more meaning because we barely know anything about her personality in the first place. It's a shame, since out of all the other allies Dante has had throughout the series, she is culturally more unique, so why didn't they take advantage of it? Even for Devil May Cry standards, it's no excuse, since I generally adore the overall plot of Devil May Cry, as well as the characters. Sadly, like everything else in DMC2, she is barely brought up ever again. Lady showed up in DMC3 with a similar twist of her father being the main villain, but executed much better, not only taking place later in the story, but also there is enough screen time between the two to understand what the relationship was truly like, and how much Arkham is truly scum for sacrificing her mother and manipulating Lady for a long time. It's no wonder why Lady became a mainstay in the series rather than Mistral Light. I'm not saying that I dislike Lucia, I'm just very disappointed that a character with such unique characteristics gets completely screwed over in a debut game. But I believe there is still hope for Lucina. Devil May Cry 4 and 5 had more than one playable character, and they executed it much better than DMC2, so why not bring her back for a sequel? Her story could be better intertwined with the rest of her cast, and therefore her interactions will be more interesting. It worked for Nero and B, so with proper care she could become a more awesome character and blow away her shoddy debut. But hey, time to shine is no better than no time at all, right? Right?
Let me show you how we brought the pain in my day.
Are you kidding me? I love the Michael Bay movies, I really do, but if I were to put my critical thinking cap, I can't excuse the way some Decepticons are treated. A majority of them lack personality and serve to be overglorified cannon fodder, which is already a waste since I am of the category that love the Bayformers design. A perfect example comes from The Last Night, particularly the Decepticons in TRF custody. The scriptwriters must have seen Suicide Squad and thought, hey, we could do that. Why would you? Because it's not even that good of a movie. No, not this one. That one. Looking past that, it's actually one of my favorite scenes in The Last Night, since most of the Decepticons there are not only given a lot of personality, but also an idea of what certain skills they have. But being in Bayverse means none of that matters. A chunk of them die within moments of being introduced, which sucks for a lot of these characters. Nitro Suits were made the most famous of the group by a long shot, even becoming a fan favorite after the movie. Probably because they only died later near the end of the movie. Berserker only had 6 seconds of silver screen fame, and somehow he has more toys than any of his teammates. Mohawk's design is the only one that's original and not recycled, and yet he ultimately serves to be another guy to make Bumblebee look more badass. Dreadbot does the most idiotic yet awesome act of robbing a human bank without taking any money, but then becomes a protein bar for Grimlock. It's plainly evident that any one of them could enter a list like this one with ease, but I purposely singled out a particular Transformer, Ant-Man. Has he fallen out of grace as the mighty Combaticon leader from G1? Ladies and gentlemen, the Decepticon that the writers couldn't give less of a damn about, Onslaught. He's voiced by John Medicio, and he gets killed by drifting crosshairs. That's it. Really, you can only summarize him with these 2 sentences. All of these Decepticons had official descriptions that filled in backstory, but most, if all, aren't utilized in the slightest. Onslaught is characterized as one of Megatron's most skilled tacticians, but it's further from the truth when your second major scene has you get killed with no effort. So Onslaught takes this spot, with his fellow disposable comrades following close by. But at least they were featured in the narrative of The Last Night. Poorly, and with little screen time, but they are only number 2 on this list, because number 1 will definitely make them look like they've achieved a lot in comparison. But before we do, we have an honorable mention. Now, like I mentioned before, I'm not a big fan of He-Man, but I do find this case study rather interesting. One of the reasons why the 1987 He-Man movie failed was that a lot of the fan-favorite characters like Orko and Trapjaw could not be included in the film because their costumes would have required very special effects. Oh yes, and effort. So characters that were exclusive to the film were introduced, and a lot of them were despised for the designs just looking dumb and cog. Yes, that's his actual name. However, the only new character which stood out in a good way was Lizard Assassin Sarod. I mean, it just speaks for itself, it looks so badass. So, with an excellent design, what does Sarod do in the film? I mean, he's a good shot, I guess. He's competent at using the surroundings of a scrapyard to his advantage. He has retractable claws. Retractable claws are cool, I guess. Oh man, I'm being super pedantic, aren't I? I mean, you can assume that he's perceptive? I mean, he did quite catch on to the fact that Skeletor wasn't gonna give his group much mercy, and sort of, wait, what? What? Hey, you can't do this to my boy Sarod. No! What the hell? No! I mean, props to him for trying to kill Skeletor, even when he's facing death. I mean, that's pretty cool, I guess. Ugh, okay, fine. Really, the only thing you can unironically praise about Sarod is his design. And the reason why he was killed off from the movie was because the producers made a mistake by, you know, making a costume that actually looks pretty awesome. I mean, compared to the other ones, like, Sarod's design may have been the most memorable thing about him, and I mean, rightfully so. It was reused for a show called Star Hunter. I should point out that Sarod did leave an impact on me. He inspired me to make this very video, and for that, Sarod, I salute you. Bionicle, Gen 1 mostly, has lots of great characters that developed throughout its decade-long run, but as the theme was about to get cancelled, many plans got cut, which especially affected the characters introduced in 2009's Splatoon arc. There were a couple stories that were published after the theme was cancelled, but that time was extremely brief, and some major plot threads are still left hanging to this day. One special case was Perdidas, who was introduced in 2009, who came included with a full Natus V9, which was an iconic part of the Glutonian arc. Yes, I'm referring to the vehicle because Perdidas was practically dead on arrival. Information surrounding this character is sparse. He is a fire Glutorian, obviously drives a Natus V9, likes working alone and has no time for friends. Oh jeez, can this get any more generic? Wait, he's a secret agent for the homicidal great being Velika? That's pretty cool. Shame that all these plans were shafted away to wrap up the main story of Bionicle, because even with that information, he has naught involvement in the story whatsoever. Even Samad, who was also introduced in a vehicle set and had the same helmet mold as Perdidas, had a whole damn arc to himself. So why wasn't Perdidas given the same treatment? It's like if the set designers made a Stan Lee designed figure to go over a vehicle that received more spotlight than him and throw information much later. But If it was never going to appear in the story, you might not have even tried. Heck, the only, and I mean the only reason Reidak could be considered memorable was because of his role in the fan-made web series Reviving Bionicle, which then again parodied his utter lack of roles in the Bionicle mythos and his less than stellar design. Fellas, we have officially reached rock bottom. We've gone from a character who went through character development in the same story arc she died in, a main protagonist in a game which rushed her characterization, one who died shortly after he was introduced despite a decent first impression, to someone with no story role whatsoever. With his sole interesting character traits never ever being taken advantage of, I crown Reidak as the most wasted character I have ever come across in my favorite franchises. Oh Reidak, how little we knew ye. Sadly, this marks the end of this video. Sometimes I wonder, I bet there are many fictional characters out there that never got their dues just as much as the ones featured on this list. If there's a character you think that are more wasted and therefore more deserving to be on this list, then let me know. I'm open to any opinions. Like, comment, and subscribe. Now I'll see you all in the next video.